Shootmania Storm is a multiplayer-only first-person shooter developed by Nadell, the guys from Trackmania, in conjunction with Ubisoft, who also published this game in the April of 2013. Nowadays, Shootmania Storm is pretty much dead, and, as we can see from Steam chart, even at release only a small circle of gamers was playing it, with only 200 players at its launch. Sure, Shootmania also had a separate launcher, but I'm convinced that there weren't more than 500 users playing on it. Therefore, with only 700 players at its launch, we can safely state that Shootmania was a dead game from the date released. A true flop from Ubisoft and Nadell, which is sad because the intentions behind this game were quite noble, since with Shootmania the developers wanted to revive the dying competitive scene of the arena genre by creating a game specifically designed to be an eSport title. So why did Shootmania flop? Let's start by taking a look at the graphic design of this game. As you can observe, the maps and the characters in Shootmania have a very minimalistic approach to them. The bright blue and red player models all look the same, which makes them lack personality, but at the same time, their lack of details improve their visibility, which is a positive thing for competitive play. The visibility of your opponents is also improved thanks to the graphic design of the maps. As you can see, they are pretty bare-bone and empty looking, and all these assets made of ruins, grass, technological poles and fences are reused throughout the whole map pool, which, for the average gamer that isn't a sweatlord, doesn't look too appealing. The pros instead obviously loved the simplicity of the map's graphic design. I mean, the arena FPS crowd always had a fetish for empty-looking maps stripped of all textures to improve visibility. Shootmania is not ugly, but it's not pretty either. One thing is for sure though, it lacks personality and things kinda feel out of place. Although at times the contrast between the natural look of these maps and the artificial looking characters can be appreciated. Let's move on to the main game mode of Shootmania, the Elite mode. 2 teams of 3 players face each other in an arena, and these 2 teams take turns as defenders and attackers. The 3 defenders have to protect a pole that one single attacker has to conquer by standing over it for roughly 5 seconds, like in a Call of Duty domination game. However, the caveat is that the attacker is only one player, and the 2 other teammates in the attacker team spectate him. Even though the attacker is at a numerical disadvantage, he is armed with an hitscan railgun, and its armor can sustain up to 3 shots from the defender's weapon. This weapon is pretty much a rocket launcher, with 3 rockets charged inside before they slowly reload. Of course, this prediction-based weapon is way worse than the hitscan railgun, but the fact that the defenders are 3 vs 1 balances it out. The idea behind this game mode is very neat. It replicates that feeling of scoring a clutch play that every Counter-Strike player is addicted to, and it does so every round you get the chance of playing as the attacker, which is obviously the coolest part of the game. From a spectator point of view, every round is indeed exciting to watch, since there is always one underdog against 3 bullies. To make this video, I've watched some tournament matches and I gotta admit that I was quite entertained by the show this game mode offers. Watching it's fun, but playing it a bit less. I have memories of playing this game and sitting idle while watching my teammates stall out the round. I mean, each round is only 1 minute long, but if you waste your turn as an attacker by feeding yourself onto the enemies, it's like you waited for nothing. And playing as a defender is not too fun, cause your rockets are pretty ineffective at long to mid range, and so when the round starts, all you could really do was spamming rockets at crucial angles and choke points of the map to obstacle the attacker from reaching the pole. Playing as defender is fun only at the last seconds of the round, cause the attacker is forced to play close range around the pole. So yeah, too much downtime when playing as an attacker definitely affected the Shootmania fun factor, and the defender role wasn't too fun to play either. Still, the problems don't end here. As you have been seeing from the gameplay, Shootmania can get repetitive fast. At the end of the day, there are only 2 weapons and a selection of maps that all look the same. Nevertheless, I gotta admit that the maps were tightly designed, with a lot of different paths and angles to play around. Movement in Shootmania has got a peculiar feel to it. It's in fact momentum based, so the more you run, the faster you will go until you reach max speed. Shootmania also presents a wall jump and a grappling hook. Moving around in Shootmania feels good. It's not as complicated as Quake strafe jumping or bunny hopping, but it's got its little nuances that make it simple yet complicated at the same time. An obstacle course mod has been created to exploit this movement system, and it's pretty much the only mode you can play nowadays, cause all the servers are empty. So, even though Shootmania gameplay feels extra tight and the movement system is well designed, the game still failed. Why? It's because players started to question why they should play a game where, at its best moments while playing as an attacker, is essentially an insta-game mode with more downtime and uninspired characters added into the mix. People would rather keep playing their insta-game matches in Quake Live or Unreal tournaments while saving themselves the $20 Shootmania costed. At least the pricing was fair though, unlike the most recent Ubisoft failure called Concord. All things considered, I believe Ubisoft and Nadeo failed when they developed Shootmania because they wanted to craft a game with the objective of turning it into a eSport title, but they forgot to add a fun spin to it, which is the crucial part to attract casual players. In fact, in Shootmania, you only have fun when you frag and stomp your enemies, if and only you are skilled enough to do so. And no, there is no grenade launcher spam or lucky sniper rifle headshot to make the new players feel happy about themselves for once. The only dopamine hit you get in Shootmania is when you win rounds and own noobs. However, there were not too many noobs to own in Shootmania, because the majority of the player base consisted in hardcore arena FPS players that were looking for a new game to migrate to, since the arena genre was pretty much at its last stand, and so was Counter-Strike 1.6 and Counter-Strike Source. So, if you took the newbiest of the FPS players and put it into Shootmania, you would get his ass completely kicked. Another issue we need to take into consideration when analyzing Shootmania failure as a game is that the game stayed in closed beta for far too long. The beta in fact lasted from July 2012 to February 2013. That gave a full 6 months of Shootmania practice to all the hardcore gamers that were invited to the closed beta and interested in becoming pros in this game, which meant that when newbie players bought the game, they got massacred by experienced players both in Shootmania and in arena FPS titles. The pros had a good reason to keep on playing, since a lot of tournaments and leagues had been created to promote Shootmania as an esport. However, these tournaments were pretty much only accessible to the ex-Pro Quake players, since nobody could rival their level of skill. I was 14 years old while playing the Shootmania closed beta, and I felt honored to be fragged by famous players like Sermi, who I met once in game, and to learn from all these great players, but that's an attitude that the casual gamers do not have. Another problem about the closed beta lasting too long is that by the time Shootmania released, us Shootmania players were already bored of the game, since, at the end of the day, it was a very simple game. Moreover, wannabe pro gamers like me were looking for the next big title to compete in, and Shootmania was not gaining too much traction. On the other hand, around the 2012-2013 years, MOBA games like League of Legends and Dota 2 were starting to become insanely popular in the gaming scene, and their huge prize pools would make any teenager like myself drool. And that's why I started playing Dota 2 for 5 years, but that's another story. So, to conclude, Shootmania Storm didn't die because it was a bad game, but because it didn't take into consideration the needs of the newer players, who just couldn't have fun, and neither were attracted to this bland-looking game. So yeah guys, if you enjoyed this retrospective, subscribe.